Am I truly living or merely performing? Look closely at modern life. Everywhere you go, people are performing, polishing their profiles, curating their smiles, posting their happiness as proof of existence. The modern world has replaced sincerity with spectacle. We live not for the experience of life, but for its documentation. And yet, somewhere inside, beneath the glow of screens and the hum of noise, there's a voice that whispers, "This isn't real. This isn't truth." That voice is your reason, the very thing Kant called the highest faculty of human freedom. It is the spark of your moral being, the reminder that you are not meant to be a reflection of others, but the source of your own light. The question is, can you remain true to that light in a world built on illusion? To live truthfully, we must first understand the enemy, illusion. Illusion today is not a magician's trick, it's a cultural design. It is embedded in our economies, our technologies, our education systems, even in the language we use. Illusion doesn't lie to us directly. It seduces us subtly. It whispers, "You are what you own. You're what you post. You are what others say you are." And slowly, without noticing, we become actors in a theater whose script was written by profit, fear, and envy. Kant would call this a form of heteronomy, a life governed not by reason, but by forces outside yourself. When you allow your desires, habits, and self-worth to be dictated by the crowd, you surrender your freedom. You may look independent, but you live as a shadow, reacting to what others project upon you. And this, my friends, is the paradox of our age. We have more freedom of choice than any generation before us, but less freedom of mind. Because when everything is filtered, edited, and optimized for attention, truth becomes invisible. It doesn't disappear, it just gets buried under noise. The modern individual has become what Kant feared most, a being that confuses appearance for reality. We scroll through digital landscapes built not for truth, but for engagement. Every image is a performance, every opinion a product. We've turned the self into a brand, a carefully engineered illusion meant to survive in a marketplace of identities. But here's the cost. The more you edit yourself to fit the world's expectations, the less of you remains. And over time, you begin to feel hollow, not because you are empty, but because you have abandoned your inner source of truth. Kant would tell us, freedom is not doing whatever pleases you. Freedom is obeying the law you give yourself. In other words, true freedom is self-discipline guided by reason, not reacting to every impulse, not chasing every new desire, but standing firm in your principles even when the world mocks them. The digital age has inverted this. It tells you, do what feels good. But Kant reminds you, do what is right. And what is right? To act in a way that respects the dignity of yourself and others, not as tools, not as followers, but as rational beings capable of truth. Let's go deeper. Why do we cling to illusions even when we know they hurt us? Because illusions are easier to live with than uncertainty. Illusions comfort the ego. Truth confronts it. The ego says, I must be admired. The truth says, I must be authentic. The ego says, I must win. The truth says, I must understand. And so, people choose illusion because it offers the appearance of control. But this is a trap. The more you try to control appearances, the more you lose control of your essence. Kant warned of this through his moral philosophy. When your actions are driven by vanity, greed, or fear, you are not free. You're governed by inclinations, the very forces that enslave reason. The person who lives truthfully, on the other hand, acts not from desire but from principle. They do what's right, even when no one is watching, even when no one applauds. That is the courage of authenticity. And in Kant's view, that courage is sacred. We live in what Kant might call the age of inverted values, where noise is mistaken for knowledge, speed for wisdom, and visibility for worth. In this world, truth has become a quiet rebel. The person who thinks deeply, questions authority, and refuses to perform is seen as strange, detached, or even dangerous. But perhaps this is exactly what it means to live truthfully. to reject the easy applause of illusion and walk the lonelier road of integrity. The crowd chases relevance. The thinker seeks meaning. The crowd seeks followers. The thinker seeks understanding. To live truthfully, you must learn to be misunderstood. Because illusion thrives on consensus, truth thrives on solitude. As Kant would say, the greatest sign of maturity is not agreement with others, but obedience to reason. So how do we live truthfully in a world like this? How do we exist authentically when everything around us is designed to manipulate perception? Here are the 3 practices Kant would demand of every awakened mind. 1. Cultivate radical honesty. Start by telling yourself the truth, even when it hurts. The mind cannot see clearly if it is addicted to comfort. Look at your motives. Question your habits. Examine your pleasures. Ask, am I living by principle or by habit? Every day you choose truth over pretense. You reclaim a fragment of your freedom. 2. Discipline your attention. In Kant's time, the challenge was ignorance. In ours, it's distraction. Attention is the new currency of truth. Where you direct, it determines who you become. When you spend hours consuming what does not nourish your soul, you are selling your freedom to the market of illusion. Withdraw your attention from noise. Reinvest in understanding. Read, reflect, walk, think. Reclaim your mind from the algorithms that shape your perception. 3. Act with integrity, not impulse. Kant's moral law, the categorical imperative, tells us to act only according to the principle we could will as universal. This is not abstract morality, it's radical consciousness. Before you act, ask, would the world be better if everyone did what I am about to do? That is the blueprint for living truthfully. It demands courage because it exposes you to isolation. But that isolation is not punishment. It is purification. It is the silence in which truth grows strong. To live truthfully is to live awake, not comfortable, but aware. It means refusing to let the world define your worth, your thoughts, or your destiny. It means using reason not as a weapon against others, but as a mirror for yourself. The illusions of the modern world are powerful, but they only control those who refuse to question them. The moment you begin to think critically, to choose intentionally, to act morally, the illusions lose their power. Kant believed that every human being carries within them the capacity for enlightenment, not a mystical state, but a moral awakening. The realization that truth is not something we find, it's something we live. So when you step out into the noise of the world, remember this. You cannot change the whole system, but you can refuse to be deceived by it. You can live truthfully in small, defiant acts, in kindness, in honesty, in principle, in presence. And as more of us do, the illusion begins to crumble. Because illusion depends on our cooperation, and truth needs only our courage. There comes a moment in every life when the noise becomes unbearable, when the endless scrolling, the pretending, the chasing, all of it suddenly feels hollow. And in that moment, something ancient stirs within you. A voice you haven't heard in years, the voice of truth. It doesn't shout, it whispers, and it says, you are not born to perform. You were born to awaken. Immanuel Kant would call this the awakening of reason. The moment you stop asking, what do they expect of me? And start asking, what does truth expect of me? You see, the world is addicted to illusion. It rewards imitation, not integrity. It celebrates appearance over authenticity. But the irony is this. Every illusion needs your cooperation. It cannot survive without your attention. The moment you stop feeding it, it begins to die. That's why your greatest rebellion is not outrage. It's clarity. It's the decision to live as a thinking being in a world that prefers you distracted. To be fully awake when everyone else is sleepwalking. Freedom, Kant said, is not doing whatever you want. It's having the strength to obey your own reason. To live by principles, not impulses. To choose what is right even when it costs you. Because yes, truth has a price. It will cost you comfort. It will cost you approval. It will cost you belonging to the crowd. But it will give you something infinitely greater. yourself. The world sells you identities like products, but truth gives you your soul back. It teaches you to stand without masks, to speak without fear, to act without needing an audience. That is what it means to be truly alive. So if you're tired of pretending, tired of scrolling, tired of comparing, then hear this. You're not broken. You're waking up. You're seeing through the illusion that success means applause, that happiness means display, that freedom means doing whatever you feel. No, freedom is mastery over your own mind, and it begins in the quiet decision to live truthfully, even when no one notices, even when no one claps. Because the truth doesn't need followers. It only needs witnesses. And the moment you become one, you give others permission to wake up too. So stop apologizing for thinking deeply. Stop shrinking so others can feel comfortable in their illusions. The world does not need more actors. It needs more awakeners. Every time you choose honesty over image, discipline over distraction, principle over popularity, you tilt the balance of this world ever so slightly back toward the real. And that matters, because the future will not belong to the loudest voices. It will belong to the clearest minds, to those who dare to live with sincerity in an age of spectacle. So when the noise tries to pull you back, pause, breathe, and remember, you are not a reflection. You're not a profile. You're not a performance. You are a consciousness in the cosmos, a spark of reason capable of truth, and in a world addicted to illusion. That makes you rare. That makes you powerful. That makes you free. So rise, not as the world expects you to, but as truth demands of you. Rise with calm defiance. Rise with integrity. Rise with courage. And when they ask what you stand for, tell them this. I stand for reality in a world of dreams. I stand for truth in a world of filters. I stand for freedom, because I have remembered who I am.